Mr. Thomas.
Oh, how's it going, my friend?
Very good, and you, Chef?
We're good. We're good.
Been a long time. Yeah, been a long time
know.
since we saw each other. Almost 4 years.
Yep, 4 years since Montreal.
Yeah, I was giving a course there back in the days.
Yeah.
My first baby step in teaching in functional neurology was a great time.
Yeah, it was good.
So here we are. Yeah, here we are. I'm way better now.
Well, I hope so.
I hope you too.
If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So
yeah, because usually the rest of the people is getting better. So if you don't move, you're regressing. Actually, yeah, that's how it is.
There's no such thing as I'm just gonna stay here even keel. I'm like, no. If you're not getting a little bit better every day, you're actually getting a little bit worse.
Yeah, that's true. People don't get it. I'm doing that for the last 20 years. I know my job. Okay.
Yeah.
You're doing the same stuff for the last 20 years. That's exactly.
I've been doing the same workout for the last 20 years. I don't know why it's not working anymore. I could probably tell you why.
It's a general adaptation syndrome, it's called.
Yeah. Something like that.
Nice.
And then it becomes an overuse problem.
Okay, for people who don't know you, Thomas James Swales.
Yep.
Right in Barrie, is 1 hour north from Toronto, actually.
Yep.
Just
right
in front of the lake. I remember some of your movements, natural gymnastica movement over the nice lake. That's pretty cool. Got some amazing videos. You can see on this Facebook page that is.
So the professional page, there's Swales Performance Systems, and then Thomas James Swales is my other one, and then Instagram is swales.tom.
Got concept therapy as well, like.
Yeah. So our clinic is Concept of Movement, physiotherapy, and Concept of Movement. That's in Barrie, and then and then we have my education platform, which is just tomswales.com.
There we go. So
there we go.
For the friends of Thomas, I'm Nicolas Desjardins. I'm the founder of Institut Neuro Performance. We're now teaching worldwide. I recommend you to go on our website, institutneuroperformance.com. There's a free ebook right now we're giving about the testing of the nervous system. Really cool, like a muscle testing, like I showed you at the same back in the days, but with some neurology, apply neurology behind it, apply embryology. So people understand better why you touch their skin, and there's a response of the brain. So that's pretty good for you, actually, too.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Okay, like and share that video. It's always a good part. If you're in YouTube, that's a good timing. So the reason why I want to talk to you, because your video always impressed me. You're one of the guy that walk the talk. Actually, it's not just pretending to do rehab and be in shape. You do it. It's a lifestyle for you. That's really great. And I don't know much people that really do it with passion all the time like that. So the people like you got results because they test it.
I mean, one of the key philosophies that we instill at our clinic is, feeling is understanding. And if you're teaching a client a certain movement or an exercise, if you don't know how to perform that proficiently and you've never done it, you don't have true understanding because you never felt its effect on your body and on your nervous system. So, the rule is if you don't know how to do it and you can't demonstrate it, you don't teach it. So if you want to have a larger toolbox of movement strategies, corrective exercises, or what have you, you need to practice them so that you can teach them more effectively to the clients. I mean, we got 2x4s that people walk on and crawl on, and you're like, okay, client, now I want you to pick up this kettlebell and walk across this balance beam. But if you fall off demonstrating, how much confidence are you instilling into the client for them to do that, and they're in a rehabilitative state, right? So it's also, people need to watch to learn because of mirror neurons and because of that whole efferent copy type of strategy, but also instill confidence and empower them to like, oh, you can do this. All right. That means I should be able to do this because we're both human beings and we're both subjected to the same laws of gravity and same physics. Right. But if you fall off or you muck up a movement, well, that's not going to give them good confidence that they can do that too.
Exactly. We build our confidence by repeating positive events. Huh?
Yeah.
If it's positive, you're going to build confidence. You're going to be better at it.
Yeah,
if it's
exactly.
bad, it's going to destroy your confidence.
Right.
I know what you said about tool and the movements. I think about a tool needs to have a user behind it. So even if you got the magical tools, but you don't know how to use it, there's no point.
Well, I mean, it's using the right tool at the right time for the right purpose, right?
Yeah,
so you can have all these great tools, but if you don't know, if you're not looking at the individual in front of you and you pull up the wrong tool, you're not going to get a great result. But how do you know if it was effective? Well, if you didn't measure things like muscle testing, range of motion, force output, balance, if you didn't check those things beforehand and then you intervened and you don't check after, how do you know if it worked? Right? Like the nervous system is a quick feedback loop. If you did something that it liked, that it feels unthreatened and it feels safe, I'm going to give you that movement back. If you did something wrong and it feels threatened or unsafe, all of a sudden it locks up the system and protects, right? Very simple feedback loop. So, and one tool might work great for one person one day, but next week it might be different because everything is dynamic and constantly changing. So it's always quickly thinking and applying the right tools at the right time for the right purpose and for the right person.
It's almost always an acceptation or a rejection of the nervous system. And we think about it, and it protect itself or it let it go all the time. It's super quick. It's interesting how we can test mostly every movement possible and validate with the nervous system after if it's better or worse. If it's worse, don't do it. For Christ's sake.
Yeah, that was the bad thing.
And then my neuro trainer course that I'm building for sometimes I test exercise with a color code. I got green, yellow, and red. So if something tests red, you remove it completely from the program. And people just are buying program online or with a coach, and they don't know how to test the nervous system. And that's mainly why we got to educate them about you're doing neurology when you move. That's pure functional neurology every time you move, because that's a response in the system all the time, a loop. And if the movement is bad, it's going to affect your nervous system. It's going to create some compensation in the brain, and the brain's going to create some more tension in the body as well. More pain might come, etc. And losing my word this morning. That's hard. Well, I'm doing my best.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Thank you.
Well, I think if we understand that we're feeling beings first, right? Like even the third trimester of baby's development, the vestibular system starts to kick on. I think it's around that time. So the baby's already orienting to gravity and external input in the womb. And our vagus nerve is 80% afferent. So it's taking information up to the brain to process it. So if we understand anything we apply, either internally or externally, information going to the brain, it's either going to turn it to a parasympathetic state or sympathetic, right? Exactly. I think it's the easiest way to kind of bring it down is just like these two systems are constantly in flux, but we want to stay, majority of the time parasympathetic and pop up the sympathetic when it's appropriate and when it's purposeful, but then come down quick. Exactly. And most of us, we know we're always picking up information from the environment in a threatened state, even if it's low level threat, but that's causing inflammation, poor nervous system output, poor sleep, poor recovery, everything, right? But if we can change the internal state of how we feel and the external cues and the external environment, well, it's all going to determine how we move.
We're created for a short burst of power. 5-minute burst of explosiveness and danger, like I'm going to kill you or you're going to kill me. So, but after it's supposed to be relaxed. Yeah. Right. So the people training for 1 hour and a half and stuff like that, I'm looking at them. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's true. And even if you are like for certain sports, even if you are training for that amount of time, it should be quick bouts of heavy lift, quick bouts of exertion, but then quite a larger chunk of recovery. Not this, not this kind of, idling between 70, 80% for the whole time. It's
exactly.
Go to 90 for, 10 seconds, 15, 20 seconds, and then come back down to 50%, right? Like the two extreme ranges, you just get a better adaptation response, at least I feel, rather than keep it in that yellow zone the whole time you're revving your engine. Like, it just causes, too much congestion and too much stress.
It would give you a great picture. You're walking to the beast. After you kill the beast, it's going to be your short burst. After you get to bring the beast home. So you got to drag it. So that's another type of energy.
Yeah, exactly.
But seriously, we should train a bit that way. That's the logic we're meant to be that way. So what's your approach about the physiotherapy? Because all physiotherapists want to use usually their hand at first, or hands at first, whatever.
Yeah. Everything should start with asking the questions, right? Getting that picture of the individual. I tell people when we take a subjective history, it's bringing awareness to what they do, because a lot of times people are just like, I got this shoulder pain and it's been slow onset. I don't know what happened. I'm like, well, you do, but you just weren't paying attention. So bringing that awareness as to, well, that repeated thing that you do 1,000 times a day, that probably shredded down that shoulder, but that old neck injury and that chronic low back pain is probably feeding into that new shoulder pain. So and then even, with my female clients asking about babies, right? Even if it's been 17 years ago, I still ask, what was the birth like? Any low back issues, any urinary incontinence, because those past problems are now feeding into this new hip pain, new low back pain. So asking a lot of good questions. Your people who are training, what are you training? Oh, I work out 3 times a week. What does that look like? Well, I do chest and back, right? I do splits. I do this, I do that. Okay. All right. We're doing chest and tris on one day, so that all of a sudden you miss back day. Now we've got an imbalance in the shoulder. So it's just the spending more time asking questions and listening. The client tells you the answer. They'll always tell you, you're always going to come up with your diagnosis almost in the first 20 minutes. Yeah. And then you're looking at, and it depends on the client. If they've answered yes to any past concussions, I check all the visual vestibular stuff to make sure that that's not in play. And I look at global movements, and then I start to tease that down into local movements, and then orthopedic testing. So majority of how we assess and treat is you're not using your hands. You're using your words, and you're using language, and you're using your eyes to look, right? Then once you've got a good idea, then you're going to get in and you start feeling and doing your orthopedic tests. So It's really a small section, which in turn, we've all moved over to a tele-rehab platform because we use, we streamline where we need to use our hands based on everything we do in the front end. Tele-rehab for us is working actually quite well. So, it's look at the whole body, break it down, and then when we're approaching from a reset or rehab perspective, it's going to, let's look at basic postures, let's look at reflexes, let's look at what's important to the brain first. Let's reset those things first, because if any of those primitive reflexes are off, or primitive postures are faulty, breathing, grip, TMJ, well, then it's just going to feed into the system, right? So reset those, and then focus on dysfunction, and then focus on the actual torn area or the damaged area.
We get to reprogram the neural development of the person, since the person got to use his brain before moving, before sensing, before everything. And if there's an error plugged there, or a motor neuron that inhibited and replaced with some better motor neurons, it's gonna keep having the same problem, because the neural development was not fine. I'm looking at the first bioelectrical trouble. I didn't show you that. It's in my level 1. Because in applying embryology, the skin develop the nervous system, develop the brain stem, develop the brain. So if there's something priority, and that if you just hold those, sorry, I was looking for the camera. So that it's a ring test, try to open the ring like that. If it's open on one side, you're gonna have a problem ipsilateral of going to the brain stem.
Right.
It's not crossing in the brain, so keeping the brain stem and overcharge the sympathetic nervous system. That's a system we developed. It's pretty amazing. And we got to fix something. Might come from jewelry or scars or everything. So we got to treat the skin without a machine, but we deprogram it with a manual therapy technique. We use piezoelectricity and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And after, I'm going to check for the primitive reflex. If I stump on fear paralysis reflex or moral reflex, I'm going to fix them right away.
Yeah.
Those guys, because it's going to block the brainstem straight. And,
right.
After all the other one, palmar plantar, whatever, gallant reflex, asymmetric tonic reflex, I'm going to do that later on because I'm keeping them in nose, but I want to test the inner ear first, feet, eyes before. That's the system. That's how I work, because I don't want to reprogram example asymmetric tonic reflex, but after I found a semicircular canal that is off, it's going to confuse all my tests.
Yeah.
Since I don't see people often in my clinic, I want to make sure I got the proper diagnose for everything. And, and they got to work on those primitive reflex for 1 month home anyway. So that's a long process.
Yeah.
So
sure.
that way, if I don't train it, I won't treat fake good signals that's gonna hide the semicircular canal or autolytic organ that is off the same side. So I will still give them the primitive exercise or in the end of the consultation. That's how I work. Cool. So about movement, if you have an example, because you're using movement as well, not only physical therapy.
Yeah.
In physical therapy, you use movement, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Will you do some hands-on therapy before doing movement to help people, or you prefer to give neural stimulation before doing hands-on and before doing movement?
Yeah, so I'll typically do, so after we assess and see, okay, you know, that shoulder flexion, you're getting a little pinchy up there, your rotation is a little bit off. You know, I always supplement and do manual therapy to kind of relax the system and disrupt those abnormal signals, right? So, I mean, the therapeutic touch, we know, being skin on skin and being bioelectrical beings, you know, my charge is far less than the person who's in pain. So my skin contact is going to downregulate their nervous system, which then gives us a window of opportunity to tack on new movement, right? Yep. So if I can change the input to their brain, now we have a window in which we can produce new output. So, I mean, you go get manipulation and soft tissue release and ART and acupuncture and all these things. It's changing the input to the brain to relax the system, right? If we got some local, you know, hypertonicity, we can say we've got too much electrical charge or it's in a sympathetic state. We tone that down because it's not going to be responsive to stretch. It's not going to be responsive to wanting to move. So we got to tone that down, and then we got to repattern and reprogram how the brain is sending signals down to that muscle group or that limb so that we have new output so that it stays put. You know, you go get a manipulation in the neck. You're like, yeah, I go to my chiro and I got cracked and I feel good for 2 days, but then it comes back. Well, no shit, because it feels good because you created a neurophysiological response and a different input. So relax the system, but it came back because your brain is still running on the old software. So everything tightened back up. You didn't learn anything new. You changed the input, which calmed the system down, which made it feel good. But if you didn't get a proper exercise or movement strategy to retrain that position, it's coming back.
And that's your software point of view.
Yeah, because like it becomes a very simple hardware software problem, right? Like it's an easy language for people to understand. Okay, the physical body's the hardware, but the software is the supercomputers up top, and the supercomputer runs the hardware. And all the hardware is doing is just taking information and sending it to the brain, saying, "Are we safe? Are we in harm?"
We're talking about the change of current in the system. So so people who don't understand it, we can maybe simplify it. We runs with electricity. If you're not sure, plug yourself into the wall. You're going to see you're pretty reactful to electricity. And we got. The electric system is pretty interesting. The body, the nervous system, actually, there's an electric current getting transferred into a biochemical information for neurotransmission. And after it's going back into electric signal. It's all going like that to like 300 kilometers in your body when everything go well. That's super fast. And the parts that people don't much know is where there's an electricity, there's an electromagnetic field. And that's how most of the people get confused with the nervous system, because they don't know the electromagnetic field of the human body is interacting with everything, even outside the body. So that's getting really annoying and interesting as well. Because, example, if you get something in your pockets, there's some studies about it that's pretty interesting. You can have a bottle of pills for your disease in your pocket, and you don't have the same marker if you get a blood test or whatever, because everything that goes to you in your electromagnetic field is going to make your system believe that it's inside of you, but it's not. So some stuff don't last long in that matter of fact, but some stuff lasts longer if there's something pulsing in it, like some minerals and stuff like that, that work like on pulsation mode. That's pretty interesting. So I'm testing that in the clinic to make sure there's not something corrupting my nervous system test, because the nervous system can be affected by that.
For sure.
So that's interesting. Those injury current, we can call it injury current if it's a tissue or scars or whatever. Even just concussion like that can affect and create some injury current in it. And there's some study pretty interesting going on about the emotion that is stuck in the brain, mixing with the sensory fibers going in the median insular lobe. So that's interesting, because if you just treat the tissues but not do correlation with the emotion stuck with it, the association, because our brain work with association all the time. If I tell you there's a banana at the moment in your mouth, you're just chewing it, and you feel maybe some saliva coming, and we're just working, just working all the time with association like that. And if I say, don't think about the banana now, you're going to see a big banana, you're trying to make it disappear, put the X on it. Oh my God, the banana is still there, because every time you pronounce the word, you receive that whatever information in your brain got to compare before reacting. So we're in the eternal loop like that all the time. And there's a way for the practitioner, I call it neurotherapy now, that's what I'm teaching, is how to interact with the brain and test all the stimulus possible and build a therapy treatment to work it as best for the person. Basically you're working like that for, you just got a different technique, but we're working in the same matter. I think you can use more movement than me actually for now. I don't have the space for it either. Back in the day when I had my gym, it was great, but it's done now.
You have your gym. You've always got your gym on you. All you need is space.
Yeah, exactly. My space, but in the clinic I am in Ottawa, I don't have space. I can barely turn myself and walk around the treatment table. It's too little, but it will come. It will come. Don't worry, I'm going to it.
Yeah.
So we're talking about current. I love current because nervous system is direct current.
Yeah.
Nervous system hate alternative current. And that's a big issue for me with the physiotherapists, because they use TENS that are alternative current. I know. I don't know if you're a big fan of TENS.
I don't use it. I mean, I use acupuncture if I have the opportunity. Just because it just complements the systems better, and it downregulates, and you can kind of organize the current as opposed to forcing, electrical current into the area.
Yeah.
But again, some people they've got a lot of chronic pain, and they're like, I have this TENS unit, I have this Dr. Hose. I'm like, okay, if you get relief from it, fine, but you have to move on top of that. But I know, and that the alternate current, it just doesn't initiate any kind of cell or tissue repair. Exactly. It just it's just a disruptive high energy signal to the brain to kind of dampen whatever sensation over the area, but it's short lived, right? Because once the effects wear off, well, the pain comes back.
Get it, brother.
But also the reason why alternate current is used is because it doesn't create that accumulation of ions underneath the pads and prevention and risk of burn. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we know that direct current, and they used to use direct current back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, or whatever. And, great modality, but there's too high risk of skin burns.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, well, alternate current is safer. We'll just, everyone use this, right?
Current is higher too as well. In alternative current in the machine usually used that I see on the market, and we need to whisper to the nervous system, not to shout at him. If we shout at the nervous system, sympathetic is gonna kick in, and there's no way you can heal in sympathetic mode. Right. And that's the bad part about TENS is it's activating the sympathetic nervous system right away. I do believe there's some result over the muscle because there's a contraction, there's a stimulation, so there's a pump effect, bring some nutrients, evacuate some toxins and stuff, proprioception about the muscle as well. Some fiber is going to be activated, but if the nervous system is in sympathetic mode, it's going to contract every other muscle that you don't want to.
but also why people will use higher levels is because the client is like, I can't feel it, therefore it's not doing anything, right? If they can't feel it, they're like, why am I laying here? Why am I paying for this? Like, I want to feel it. And what's the mentality of society? More is better. Oh, more pain. Yeah. Like, get that foam roller in there. And like, the harder it is, the better. I'm like, no, like, that's your body saying it's too much. Like, and more weight is better, and more exercise is better. And, like, more is always better in the mentality of most people.
Yeah. Bigger is better.
Yeah. Bigger is better. But, if you put a machine on somebody and they're like, well, I don't feel anything. No, you're not supposed to feel anything. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we can tell it that way.
Right. And, with some ultrasound machines, like, you're not supposed to feel ultrasound. It might get warm, right? But they're like, well, I don't feel anything. I'm like, you don't want to, because if you're feeling it, you're probably getting burned internally, right? Like, it's producing heat. So some machines, it will purposely warm up the head of the ultrasound so that the client can feel something.
Yeah, just placebo.
Right.
Well, thermoreceptors are activating. That's okay. Right. Yeah, but maybe it's all we want that pump. It's maybe because of the Arnold Schwarzenegger. Maybe the pump is the cure. That's all his fault.
Yeah, it is all his fault.
I see. I don't know if you're a Netflix fan. There's something that just popped out. It's 100 human. It's neuroscientists that work with human, and they use actually a device that people were sitting in it, and they were sorry, it's so French. They were moving the device on it and say, do you feel more calm and relaxed? It's supposed to be for spa and stuff like that. Actually, it was nothing. Like, it was doing nothing, but people were saying, you're going to feel more calmer. How do you feel? And the people will talk about their stress period, and they're going to go around the machine, and all of them said, I actually feel better. Okay, and finally, they pretend to raise the level. Yeah. And people, I feel the difference. Yeah. And it's the brain is so powerful, so easy to cheat. Their study now, they say even in the medical community, everything is 30% actually placebo. And they use that term to deny other practice a lot. But actually, if I go in a hospital that costs millions of dollars, I see people in white clothes with the power over me and over my health. The only one that can pretend to heal people, and they give me a pill and say, "Take that, it's gonna heal you." And I go in the dark alley in the night, and I see somebody take that pill, it's gonna heal you. But I'm pretty sure the effect won't be the same, but it's gonna be the same pill, Yeah. So that there's a nocebo effect. They don't talk about it much. I love to talk about that, because nocebo. If you tell somebody you got a cancer, you're supposed to live 3 months. After 3 months, people die, and then. Don't tell that to someone. That's bad.
Right. Well, I think a lot of that is, you give them the worst case scenario, because if you say, oh, you've got 5 years to live, right? And then you die in 5 months. Well, they're like, the doctor said I had 5 years, right? I'm going to sue you. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So it's always, it comes down to, well, give them the worst case scenario. And if they live longer, great, right? Like, I was wrong, good. That's a happy wrong.
That's kind of yeah, I know. That's kind of fatalist because I'm doing my PhD in integrative medicine, and we're like, no, okay, get the solution, change your life, find all the solution possible. Okay, we can maybe say to the person, usually people die in 3 months, okay, but you can't change all your lifestyle, change your epigenetic, and there's some healing that might occur. We don't know. It's all open. Because people now are just waiting for a magic pill. In physiotherapy, you're lucky because people come and they know it's going to be a long process. And if you're a bad PT, it can be a super long process.
It could be a super long process.
Sorry. But that's it. But they know they're gonna have to be there. It's not like a magic pill and go back home and that's all your genetic. It's not your fault. No, now you're going to the PT. It's part of your fault because you're gonna have to do exercise. Otherwise, you don't get paid.
Well, exactly. Right.
So that's a good part. You got a good part of the deal at the moment with that. Okay, so you tell me no manual therapy assessment. You basically you're going into the questionnaire and all the stuff. That was a good part.
Everyone gets some form of manual therapy because it feels good, right? So there's always some hands-on. So, because I can't, but then they're going to get, the tools to take home so that they can kind of replicate what I just did to them manually, right? To get that little bit of that reset. Plus, the hands, it gives us the more, the longer you've been doing this, the more quickly intuitive you can put your hands on somebody or quickly feel and be like, there's restriction here. You're just going to get to the solution faster. I mean, that's where the hands come in handy. Is it's faster through feeling rather than trying to think, right? So if I can reset this or manipulate this really quickly, then we can get over here and we can do the movement side of stuff faster, rather than sitting there trying to, you can ask them questions and you can get them to move it out and whatnot and teach them, but hands are just faster, right? Seriously, but you have to strategically, you have to spend time on the front end to assess, to know, I need to put my hands exactly here to unravel the body, to unravel all of this stuff that they're feeling, right? Rather than, okay, I spent 2 minutes asking questions and assessing. Now I got to fix this, and I got to fix this, and I got to fix this, and I got to go everywhere and treat for 20 minutes. I'd rather spend the time assessing on the front end and maybe only have to treat for 2 or 3 minutes, and then get the movement side of things.
Exactly. That's the best. That's the best thing to do. In your example, you got a traumatic event, an accident or stuff like that. Okay. You already know what's going on most of the time. You get some scan and stuff like that. But if somebody tell I got something, I don't feel right, they're just coming by themselves. Sometimes there's a massive release just by the questionnaire, just by understanding them, communicating with them, and spending time. And finally, some people just feel better after you realize their stress is coming from their home, their family. They got stress home. They have a divorce running now, and suddenly the back is coming, the lower back is coming. I was there's a teacher with us. It's called Joel Castaner. He's a French guy. He studies in France. He's working with the handicapped people. He's been he had the brain stem surgery 14 times when he was young. So imagine, it's crazy. Spent most of his life in a hospital bed. Wow. He developed some great insight to look at people, trust me. And he said, he told me something funny in the first course I did with him. He said, there's 7 cervical vertebrae, right? How many days in a week? 7, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay. So weekly problem of the day, stress of the week, bigger week, something stressful, might clinch a bit more, might be a bit more sympathetic nervous system stress, might feel some tension more often there. How many vertebrae are on the back? The thoracic. Well, how many months in the year? Midterm problem, okay? So are you going to move something in the house? I'm going to change the office place, whatever. And when you see lower back pain, it's like for us, it's our foundation. Huh? It's where everything got plugged in the sacrum, and that's really our foundation. And gonna see it's career changing, divorce, babies coming, something big life issues that the people don't find a solution. That's pretty interesting. And there's tons of correlation like that. It's super easy to tell you when there's an emotional source. It's not absolute fact, but check that out on your side. You're gonna see that's something funny. And the left side is the heart side. Right side is the action side. So if we think about our shoulders, it's nothing scientific, I'm telling you. It's just maybe a bit holistic, but that's interesting. Our arms are like wings, you know? People coming with left shoulder issues. Often I will tell them, is that something you want to realize recently, or you want to do, but don't know how to do it? You got a project running, you're like confused, want to create your own business, or whatever, you want to leave something, and all the time, mostly people, if it's not a traumatic injury, something coming from nowhere, it's psychosomatic, and most of the time it's the left wing, the wing of the heart, the thinking project is off. And finally, they fix that part in their life, and pain going to the right shoulder. Okay, I know what to do now, but I'm afraid to do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't have the funds to do it. There's something coming up. That's interesting. Action. Yeah, that's interesting. Check about it. I'm not telling it's 100%. It's pretty cool.
You ask the questions, right? And they can get some insight into the psyche and what kind of emotional, mental stress is going on that's now precipitating into the physical. For sure.
There's nothing going out of my belly at the end of the day with a little piece of paper saying, okay, call your mother, you been a long time you talk to her, take some vitamin C you're liking now. There's no report coming from our body. We get to listen to the sign to check that out. Like you told in the beginning, people know it without knowing it. If they start to figure when it happened, is that worse in the night, in the days, symptoms that are present all the time. But I was in a holiday in Mexico for 2 weeks. Everything was super good. And then finally it came back. When it came back, when you drop off your wallet in home, knowing that the next Monday you're gonna go back to work. Exactly. It's not the wallet way, trust me. You're going back to the same shitty job you don't love. And your body tell, oh no, man, please. Don't torture me again. Okay, for the people who don't want to maybe more know about how we test the skin and to find some injury current, test the brain, go on the Institut Neuroperformance.com, get or grab our ebook. It's in French and English, so that's super cool. You're gonna maybe more understand what Thomas is actually doing at his job as well. So I'm saving you time there. For the skeptical people. Perfect. Right? We're professional, okay? We studied for that shit. Do you have something that interests me more, maybe less in the manual part, more in the movement part? Do you have example of movement often evaluated in some course you did that you realized that were not such a great marker in final? Because there's so much assessment of movement. And sometimes, why you check that? Why you check the overhead squat? Why you check that? Why you check that?
Right.
Is it finally so relevant?
Right. Like, so something that I found in a course, or something that I do consistently.
Well, there's so much assessment. Okay, there's so much system. I don't want to name anyone because my point is not to bash on anyone. Okay, but some assessment, because people are not used with neurology and they get stuck sometime in the structure. Example, your glute don't activate, whatever, and check the VMO, and okay, why? Because maybe it's completely neurologic at base. Or primitive reflex or anything. Inner here can deactivate all your extensors on one side, mostly the upper body one, and people don't know it. So even if you do all your squat tests and actually don't work with neurology, can have all the problem coming. Can even if your foot is not properly placed on the ground, all your chain are going to be messed up because the feet are going to be the one that interact with. They are only part of in your body actually interacting with the environment, the physical reality. Instead, you're sitting on a chair. So something you see, some movement you find finally pretty it's not working, spending so much time learning those stuff and use those screens, and finally it was kind of wrong or not as precise as it will be.
I mean, the one thing, I do a global movement assessment, top down and then center out. But I always check balance on everybody because, single leg balance, Yonda talks about single leg balance is a great test to check core control, right? But, it's control of center. When it's regarding core, it's center of gravity control. But is it being influenced by the foot? Is it being influenced by the pelvis? Is it being influenced by your breathing? Is it being influenced by the vestibular system? So checking single leg balance and then dynamic single leg balance, and then checking some of like your Sharp and Romberg tests or any of those things to quickly kind of rule out, okay, where do I need to fix the balance issue? Because if balance sucks, then it's just going to lock up the system, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And if their balance sucks or their center of control sucks because their breathing is terrible, well, I got to fix breathing first, right?
Yeah.
So doing some quick intervention, some manual muscle testing, either diaphragm, jaw, visual, vestibular system. What do I need to recalibrate quick, and then recheck the balance, and then go into more, the manual therapy, changing the input distally, and then integrating it with kind of do I need to retrain their VORs or their rolling patterns to integrate the spine, or is it more, do I need to do some TMJ inhibition on one side or activation on the other, or visual? So it's using balance as a quick feedback loop of, okay, I did an intervention. What's your balance like? Because if they can't balance, I can't get them to squat. I can't get them to lunge. I can't get them to do anything in standing. I need to take them back down to the ground to reset and recalibrate things, because that's where we learned, was from the floor. So, I mean, to answer your question, balance is non-negotiable. And the other thing is checking neuro. I always tell my clients, I'm like, everyone is a neuro client until proven otherwise, right? You got to check myotones. You got to check, if they had post-concussion or past concussions, you got to check the visual vestibular system. Everyone is neuro.
For everyone, it's the base. Everyone. It's the base of proprioception.
Yeah.
If you want to work on movement and you didn't check the proprioception, it's wrong.
Yeah.
And for pain, you need proprioception as well.
Yeah.
For motor control, you need proprioception. So we need to fix the sensory before the motor. So that's
every single time, because we're sensory first.
We'll love the course I was talking to you about, the sensory motor rehabilitation course. We make people go on the ground as well, like you told. That's pretty. I know you get to be in the team,
right?
We got to go on the ground because ground feels safe. There's no danger from being on the ground.
Yeah.
So babies go on the ground, everything's good on the ground. If you don't know how to interact with the ground, it's going to be hard for you to go on four limbs and go upstairs. And people want to sprint. They don't know how to run, and they want to run. They don't know how to walk. And they don't know how to stand up. They don't know how to crawl, and they don't know how to do four limb crawls. And everything is messed up at the moment in people. They wear shoes. They don't move. They're seated. The limbs don't move anymore. That's crazy. It reminds me a bit of how we practice. We correct the primitive reflex. After, we're going to check something that we call the 7 diaphragm. Actually, it's 7 structures that are connected with the diaphragm. I don't know if you're used with that. Sphinx occipital bones, palate, hyoid bone, scapula for the vagus nerves. Thoracolumbar fascia, pelvic bone, and talus. They all move with the diaphragm. So if the diaphragm which is the primary movement of the body, is breathing, first thing you do when you live, and last thing you do when you die. If it's not working properly, you're gonna be fucked for a long time. So we're gonna fix the interaction of those systems. Some require manual therapy, some weird stuff like scapula. Gonna reset the orbital eyes muscle. Gonna make sounds, stimulate the vagus nerves, frontal and dorsal part. Gonna clean up the lymph around the neck and do some crazy stuff, and it's reactivating the muscle chain in the system. So for that, we're testing a sublateral subsystem, anterior subsystem, in back subsystem. Make sure in all plan of movement, the person is able to produce force. So after that, I'm gonna test feet, inner ear, eyes.
Yeah.
So that's how we work now. We move everything from procedurology somewhere later, and after we go into specific stuff. That's
sweet.
But basically, we're in the same mindset. We get some good stuff to exchange.
Yeah, for sure.
Our students are gonna be happy. So finally, do you still use like a marker front overhead squat and stuff like that? Traditional markers?
Yeah, I mean, overhead squat is. I'll use that for maybe 25%. I'll just use a squat in general because most people just suck at squat. Getting them to go overhead I already know they're all locked up. They're not going to be able to do it. But that single leg balance and partial squats and single leg balance is a little bit more relevant because then I can kind of pick off one side of inhibition versus the other. And then, that's like single leg balance is kind of where my entry point is. Do I need to take them back down to the floor, or can I do some more neurology up? Right? Everyone needs balance first, because balance, you need to have balance first before you can walk. Right? Baby won't take its first steps until it can stand and stand there a little bit, and then because walking is imbalance. It's it's chaotic balance. And you're losing balance to reestablish balance repeatedly.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you can't do static balance, and I tell people, I'm like, look, you can't stand on one leg. How do you think walking's going for you, let alone running? Not very good. Let's go back down to the floor. Let's find out what's causing the balance issues. Let's clean that up. We might need to do some rolling. We might need to do some crawling. We might need to do some half kneel rotary stability stuff. Might need to do some visual activation or some cervical lobes or whatever, and then we'll go back and check your balance.
Even when you walk, there's a vestibular and eyes always trying to gaze to gaze at the horizon. And we came at the same conclusion. That's exactly why I'm doing I want my brainstem to be contactable, and after I'm gonna do primitive reflex. We're gonna check all the neural hierarchy before moving, and exactly what like you tell you, it's complete chaos instability when you walk, because 80% of the time you're just on one foot. So why single leg balance are so important? That's the main reason. 80% of the time you're on one foot. So why would you ever avoid testing that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's non-negotiable for me. Like if your balance sucks, and what drives me nuts is people will be like, oh, my balance isn't so good because I'm older. I'm like, no, it's because you don't challenge it anymore. I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, it's because you stopped practicing balance. So therefore you start to suck at it. It's just like anything. Exactly. It's not because you got older. It's because you stopped practicing and challenging it.
The principle in neurology, if you don't use it, you lose it. That's it.
Exactly.
Brain got something else to do, like play Scrabble.
It's not going to waste energy on something you're not using. It's just going to, take away those synaptic connections.
He's a lazy bastard.
It is.
The brain is lazy. He's loving having some challenge, but he's a lazy bastard at first.
Exactly.
Economical bastard. So he's a greedy bastard, maybe. I wanted you to talk to me about your level 1, level 2, because I know it will be really great things to integrate into our concept. If eventually it come up.
So the level 1 is a lot of foundations and fundamentals. So again, teaching people how to ask questions. You got a whole list of questions to look at posture, analyze posture. Somebody's posture, it's the representation of the internal and the external environment, right? How is the brain organizing all that information, and why is it twisting, and why is it creating these folds? It's trying to be the most efficient as possible with regards to the internal external cues. But you see atrophy, you see skin creases, you see bands of muscle, lines of pole rotations. You can already, if you know how to look at the posture accurately, you already going to get an idea of how they move because of their lines of pull, their rotations, their tilts, right? How many people, they're all side bent to the right. And like, you know, your neck is being, no, it's straight. And then I pull them straight. They're like, no, I'm side bent to the left now. No. So now like, okay, we might have some visual or vestibular issues. Like if somebody's sitting there in my office like this, well, they're only using the left visual field, but they're being pulled by the right cervical muscles. Why, right? Maybe it's TMJ. So if we can make these clinical hypotheses of what could be influencing the system just based on posture alone, well, it's just going to drive where we need to, okay, I need to see these movements, and I need to ask these particular questions, as well as I need to test these particular things. So we go deep, we go big on the subjective history, go big on the posture, and then we look at the global movements. So the global movements, going top down, what's the cervical spine doing? What are the shoulders doing? What's the spine doing in standing? And then we move from there into more local. We start to break apart upper, lower, back, front, and then into the peripheral limbs. So we start to tease down into kind of main restriction areas. We do basic manual muscle testing, checking each individual muscles to see input, right? Or to see the output. And it's not because it's weak, it's just, it might be inhibited, right? Or if something is tight, it's probably hypertonic. So it comes back to, oh, you're overcharging this, or this is inhibited or undercharged. Maybe it's probably being influenced by something else in the system. So all of a sudden you do your intervention, you teach, you release a hip flexor or a TFL with either manual therapy or a lacrosse ball or whatever, and then you go recheck that glute. All of a sudden it comes back online. Okay, great. We had inhibition from something else. So it can be used as a completely hands-off course. So the practitioners who don't have a license to use their hands or produce manual therapy, they can still assess, but they teach the clients how to use the tools, but then they reassess. And then the manual therapists, your physios, your chiros, your osteos, it guides them. I'm like, okay, do some kind of manual intervention over here, and then, but recheck this, right? So it's always a check, recheck system. And using muscle testing, using movement, and then tacking on, integrating new mobility, new active movements once you change the input. And then knowing that when you add resistance, you're hitting the save button on the document, right? As soon as you add load, you're telling the brain, I'm happy with this. Let's lock this in and make it more permanent, right? Where a lot of people fall short is they release stuff, and then maybe they give them an isolation exercise to wake up the muscle, but they didn't integrate it with the system. So all of a sudden, oh, that exercise doesn't work anymore. Well, you got to reset it again. Then you got to wake up the muscle, but you haven't integrated it with how the brain is organized from a systemic standpoint and how it works as a whole, right? So like that's basically sums up the level one. And then the level two, we get a little bit deeper into neurology. We go through the primitive reflexes, breathing, TMJ, visual, vestibular, cervical colic reflexes, making sure those are all online. But then even into what I call it kinetic muscle testing, where you're looking at kinetic chains. And this is based on PNF patterns. This is based on fascial lines. This is based on acupuncture meridians, that knowing that a hip rotation, if you integrate the ankle inversion with hip external rotation, it may inhibit the system. So all of a sudden you're like, okay, when I integrated that joint, it shut off the hip. So we get more into kinetic chain testing to see, oh, this muscle or this isn't working because it's being influenced or inhibited from something else down below. And you're just bringing certain joints in and out of play to see who's affecting who. And then going more into the balance side of things, we break down balance and we do what I call kinetic push test, where we go into a half kneel and I'm looking at the direction of inhibition where I can push people over, right? And then in the spine supported position, I'm seeing, okay, if I rotate you or diagonally push you, does it activate those glutes more, or does it inhibit the glutes more, right? And then it gives us idea of like, okay, rather than we're going to do a power press over here, and we're going to do chops and lifts, we're going to do all these. You only probably need one in particular to reactivate or reorganize the whole chain, right? So, and then we get into gait and running mechanics. We get into ballistics. So in the level one, we go over basic hip hinge, deadlift, squat, upper push pull, but a lot of loaded mobility. And then in level two, we go over ballistics. We get into Turkish get-ups and your kettlebell swings and your overhead pressing and your handstands, and then into upper body pulling, some climbing. We get into ambulation, crawling, transitioning from standard crawl, gait, and sprints. So we get a little bit higher level into higher functioning in the level 2, but understanding that we need that foundation from level 1 to reset the system before we start to integrate higher function.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
You get to bring that home. You get to bring that here. That's really interesting, because some of the stuff I was talking about, or preparing it to teach that kind of concept, and I told you it can save me tons of time if you share some goodies with the institute. I'm building a course at the moment. It's gua sha for biomechanical applied biomechanics. And it's all copying in gua sha, but I'm testing all the functional line as well. And I'm going to treat, I told you that I'm going to treat the one that is the worst, and everything's going to go back into place. So I was thinking with your course to give functional exercise to reinforce that system after. It's a great idea too as well. You just don't want to slack the tissues. You want to reinforce what is weak, because otherwise it's all going to go back to the wrong place. It's the principle of tensegrity. Usually people are not lacking, they're lacking of strength in somewhere else. There's a lack of activation. And when we feel tension, we want to relax the tension. And that tension might just be here because the body is retaining it, because the other part is not doing its job.
Right. So it's just a line of protection or stability, because then people go in, they stretch that or they release it. But I'm like, okay, when you release something, you've created a window of also instability. So you took away the body's protection. Now you potentially exposed it. If you don't strengthen or reactivate around that, it's either going to cause another injury or a tear, or it's just going to wire back up to protect.
Exactly. And the people, that's why people that don't want to do their exercise, when you give them something like that, I can't read your body, find you a solution, give you the solution. You got to reinforce it by the principle of neuroplasticity and whatever. If you don't do it, something bad might happen actually. Because it's like opening the window, the door. You get to open the door to go out, but don't leave it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Or in Canada, might have a bear, someone coming, a bear. You're at Barrie. No, just kidding. Bad wording, sorry. Okay. There we go. Was pretty interesting. I think our system can merge really well, because we're really hands-on. Actually, we don't do much of the training with my friend Michael Lapointe. Mike, gonna love that guy. He's creating all that part about movement and stuff on the ground and stuff like that. Since I'm mainly a clinical guy now, I do less of those things, but he really love that. You're gonna enjoy meeting him, I'm pretty sure. And we probably gonna go to your course right away in Barrie as well. See that? I don't know if you got some physical dates for your course, since we're covering stock a bit.
We have Toronto, hopefully. So we had May, June potentially, but I think those are going to get scrapped because of what's going on. But September is slated. End of September slated for Toronto. So level 1 in Toronto. I'm doing a level 2 in October in London, and then looking at
Ontario.
Yeah, London, Ontario. Okay,
because I got a massive audience. Oh, he's coming to UK, nice.
Yeah, no.
There's gonna be people waiting in the hotel, Hilton Hotel in London.
Yeah, not there yet. But and then also some dates possibly out in BC and Calgary. So moving a little bit west, hopefully in the new year. But we're looking to, if I can get another level 1 off the ground, or the level 2 in Barrie in September, that would be ideal. And then end of September, level 1 in Toronto. But we got to find out, we got to kind of project what's going on right now. We're basically saying all the spring courses are going to be pushed to the fall as of right now.
Ooh, that's a big jump, huh? How you deal with it with the family and the clinic and your center actually? That complicated for you to go out, like and stuff like that?
Well, that's where a lot of our time is being focused is, one, doing the tele-rehab, getting the therapist on board for that, and just looking after staff in any way that we can during this time. And then hopefully get things up and running enough that we can start hiring staff back to start working again. Yeah. But
to put some people out with everything that happened.
It's been stressful, but we've pivoted, and it's slowly working. Yeah, moving in the right direction. It's good.
So how many people you got working there?
So we have six physios, including myself, 2 massage, 3 movement coaches, 3 admin.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
nice clinic. Yeah, good space. How many square feet you get there?
We have 4,800.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's like my gym. I had I was 4,600. Yeah, so that's kind of good.
Yeah, we got 1,800 square feet for the gym side, and then the other square footage, the other 2 is the clinical side.
Amazing, pretty cool.
Yeah,
can't wait to see that. Woo-hoo.
It's pretty sweet, man.
Yeah, man. We're gonna have. I got to go back in shape. My home. Every time. Lots
of fun to play with.
Yeah, every time we're trying to train, there's something going on. Example, I was 5 months per year outside of the country, teaching France with Switzerland, Spain, etc. Now we open Belgium, we got Morocco, we got so much stuff going on, and we got some offer in Australia, Dubai,
good.
New York, and Dubai. I told you,
Dubai, yeah.
So Corsica, so I can't wait to go there. September. So it's gonna be fun. So, but we're starting to work on the English market actually. And it's kind of slow because we're not doing any publicity in the English community. Now we translate everything. We're starting having some people aboard that create content for the English community. So it's going fast because there's so much people talking English. So when it started, it goes super fast. So that's a good part about it. And all the trainer on the team are English people, so that's funny. So it's going to be I think really massive for the trainer community and less for the therapist community in English.
Right.
Everything's okay. We're going to adjust ourselves. Okay, excellent. For the people still haven't got their book, institutneuroperformance.com. Grab your free ebook about it. Sign up on our channel. Have fun. Sign up. Same for your page. You get tell it again, please.
Yeah. You can head over to tomswales.com for all online education. Lots of free tutorials, free insights. There's a few online courses, a handstand workshop, as well as a shoulder health course that I have recorded that's available for purchase. And then some up and coming ebooks that are underway. So there'll be lots and lots of stuff. And of course, if you go to my Instagram at swales.tom, I always put up free stuff up there, all kinds of different insights, answering questions, helping people out in this time.
Rock and roll. Good time. That's a perfect time. We can reach with some more people. Got time for ourselves, for the family, to take care of ourselves, because we realize after it that maybe we're tired too.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot, brother. It was a big fun, and I hope to see you in our course as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Got so much to exchange. I think so much stuff to share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Have a good one. Okay, bye.
Thanks, Nick. Take care.